Learn about art, Captain, Thrawn said, his voice almost dreamy. When you understand a species' art, you understand that species. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another Star Wars Legends lore video. Today we'll be talking about Heir to the Empire, which, by the way, I'll be discussing 2 Thursdays from now on my podcast, Tapcaf Transmissions. It's sort of a Star Wars Legends book club, and this is probably the best time to join. If you're interested, by the way, you can get a copy of Heir to the Empire for free by signing up for Audible at audibletrial.com/EckhartsLadder. Anyway, by 9 ABY, the Empire was largely in shambles, with the New Republic now controlling large portions of the galaxy and finally beginning to truly build a functional government. The Empire was losing and near collapse, that is, until Grand Admiral Thrawn joined the battle. Thrawn had been working in the unknown regions, officially trying to bring the various unknown region planets and civilizations into the greater empire, but also secretly creating the Empire of the Hand. More on that in later videos, but what's important is that Thrawn returned from his exodus to launch an extremely complex and sustained campaign against the New Republic, a campaign which threatened to destroy the New Republic itself. But it wouldn't be easy, and although Thrawn had gained the support of the Imperial Ruling Council, which itself controlled a large portion of the Loyalist Imperial forces, he had few ships at his disposal, leaving the majority of assets to shore up Imperial borders. He took the Chimera as his flagship, and at most times commanded a fleet of 6 or so ships: the Death's Head, the Judicator, the Inexorable, the Nemesis, and the Stormhawk. However, frequently Star Destroyers would operate independently, especially the Chimera, while on other occasions, of course, like major battles, he would bring more assets to bear. Thrawn's beginning actions were all about testing the New Republic and collecting pieces to the puzzle that would bring them down. One of those pieces was knowledge, and in 9 ABY, he launched a raid against the library world of Obroa-Skai, where he discovered, among other things, the location of the Emperor's secret storehouse on the planet Wayland. After the attack, however, the Chimera, which was operating independently, was ambushed by a New Republic task force made up of 4 assault frigates and what the book calls 3 wings of starfighters. Imperial fighter wings are said to be made up of 6 squadrons, while New Republic fighter wings are 3, at least according to later lore. Regardless, Thrawn was outnumbered, with the enemy probably bringing about 100 starfighters and 4 capital ships to bear. At this point, Thrawn was still new to the fleet. He was a mystery to his crew and even the Chimera's captain Pellaeon, but not only was he one of the legendary Grand Admirals, but even during his exodus had a reputation for being one of the greatest military geniuses ever to serve the Empire, at least among those in the know. So let's talk combat. A single Star Destroyer would probably have a decent chance against the 4 assault frigates. Assault frigates, by the way, are modified and modernized Dreadnought-class cruisers. They were about 700 meters long, faster than their base ships with upgraded systems, a lesser crew, but less armor. They seem to be employed very commonly within mobile New Republic task forces during Thrawn's era. The 100 or so X-Wings, on the other hand, were incredibly deadly, most likely capable of destroying multiple Star Destroyers on their own. With the X-Wings considered, it should have been a rout against Thrawn, and Captain Pellaeon first suggested that the Empire retreat, then later, at the very least, that they call in reinforcements. Thrawn commanded the battle from his personal chambers. On the Chimera, he had replaced a lavish captain's quarters with what was sort of a secondary bridge, which he used to meditate and study art. As the battle began, he was in his quarters, as was Pellaeon, and he commanded the battle from there. Notably, it was at this time that Pellaeon and much of the Chimera's crew witnessed Thrawn's pure genius for the first time. At the beginning of the battle, 3 TIE fighters were in a scouting position. Thrawn sacrificed one of these in order to judge how the New Republic commander would respond to threats. Through these actions, he was able to determine that the commander of the fleet was an Elomin, i.e. an alien from Elomin. Knowing this, the TIEs pulled back, and Thrawn ordered the Chimera to initiate a Marg Sable. A Marg Sable has a capital ship, in this case the Star Destroyer, orient its bridge towards the enemy while fighters launch unseen from the hangar. The advantage essentially is that the fighters are screened from the enemy, who can't see the formation that they exit in. The typical Marg Sable has them come around various points of the ship and overwhelm the enemy on all sides. At this point we start to lose the specifics, but what we do know is that the X-Wings responded ineffectually, despite the Marg Sable being a fairly common maneuver. Pelion blinked. What in the Empire are they doing? They're trying the only defense they know against a Marg Sable, Thrawn said, and there was no mistaking the satisfaction in his voice, or, to be precise, the only defense they are psychologically capable of attempting. He nodded towards the flashing sphere. You see, Captain, that's an Elomin commanding that force, and Elomin simply cannot handle the unstructured attack profile of a properly executed Marg Sable. Most likely what happened is that the X-Wings remained in formation, perhaps heading towards the Star Destroyer, while the TIE fighters came in on their flanks and overwhelmed them from multiple angles. We do know that the TIE fighters were described as sweeping around the Star Destroyer, so I think that's fairly likely. Continuing the assumptions, from that point on, the TIE fighters would have taken the battle to the assault frigates with the Chimera in support. The Chimera can most likely even outrange the larger ships and certainly has more firepower. Once one or two are lost, it would be an absolute slaughter. However, the specifics so much aren't the key takeaway here. Rather, this is a classic illustration of how Thrawn operates. He is always prepared for his enemy. That preparedness usually identifies some sort of weakness or common behavior which he exploits. Again, although we don't have specifics, because of Thrawn's study of art or perhaps past battles, in this case, he was able to find that the enemy he was encountering was of a certain race and that this race typically responded a certain way to one type of maneuver. Had the fleet been commanded by humans or some other species, it's very likely that he would have had to retreat or use some other technique. It just so happens that the Marg Sable worked perfectly. But that's all I have for today. I hope I see some of you guys at Tapcaf Transmissions. We'll be streaming the first episode on my channel, then the second episode on Corey's, then the third again on mine. But you can also find the podcast on most podcast providers. Just search Tapcaf Transmissions or check the link in the description. Again, if you want to get the book for free, you can try Audible or you can check your local library. Mine at least has both audio and physical copies of the book, and I mean, it's extremely popular, so it's not really hard to find. Today's question comes from The Gamer, who asks, what happened to the remaining separatists after the defeat of the Empire? There's a nice little section of the Essential Guide to Warfare about that I'll recommend. However, we do know that the early Empire engaged in some serious campaigns against separatist holdouts, mostly in the Outer Rim. It's probably worth doing a whole video on this, and maybe I will soon because it's a good idea, but a lot of really well-known Imperials and even a later rebel participated in these campaigns, including Wolf Yularen, Admiral Screed, and Jan Dodonna. Eventually though, most of the separatists were destroyed, the separatist corporations were broken up and imperialized, and battle droids fell pretty heavily out of disuse. From a practical point, the decline of the separatists can be attributed partially to the fact that much of the post-Endor EU was written before even the Phantom Menace, so writers didn't know that droid armies would be a thing, or that they would be that prominent in the galaxy. However, if you look on my channel, you can find some interesting videos about battle droids operating late after Endor, including even a squadron of B2s which fought the Yuuzhan Vong. Very cool. Anyway guys, that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll join us for Tapcaf Transmissions, but until I see you next time, have a great day, and may the Force be with you.